Until you can say, these are my triggers, this is why I'm depressed, I'm ready to make change, you will not be ready to heal. That brutal level of insight is almost more important than the safe spaces and the remedies themselves, because it's the first step of an alcoholic, of a depressive, of anything.
Totally agree. Hello, I'm Kate and I am CEO of Push, and welcome to our new series, Safe Spaces, where we ask leaders and other high-profile talent to let us into their safe space and to help us understand how to better create them at work and at home. Now, a safe space is more than just a physical space. It can happen anywhere and is about connection, asking the right questions and feeling very comfortable about sharing the answers. And I suppose with that in mind, I don't know anyone else who would be so comfortable asking the right questions and sharing as my current guest today, Mr. Russell Kane, award-winning comedian, author, mental health ambassador, a man of many talents, many of which I would imagine we'll see today. So, Russell, hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me into your safe space. It can be a safe space, a filthy one, as long as the other person is, in on it. When it's one person's in a filthy safe space and the other, that's a prison sentence.
I was going to say, how many times have you used that line?
Never. We'll be reusing it this evening.
So normally when I start these interviews, I do obviously ask a question about what's been on your mind lately, but I do want to share with you, before I talk to you about what's been on your mind, what's been on my mind as I'm approaching this video, if that's okay. And I was talking to a friend of mine about it earlier and saying I'm approaching this interview feeling nervous, excited and curious, which is quite a nice combination of different feelings, actually. Nervous because I think you're very clever, excited because I'm excited about what we're going to uncover, and curious because I don't know where it's going to go. So yeah, so those are my three things. How are you approaching it? I would imagine you might be a little bit tired after last night.
Well, do you want an honest answer?
I would love an honest answer.
The honest answer is, I first of all, I saw that you were the CEO of Push and thought it was a pregnancy and birthing podcast when I said yes originally. Secondly, all I knew was, I'm only joking by the way. Secondly, I just knew through a friend it was something to do with safe spaces and mental health, and I was sent about 100 emails to read, and I thought, you know what? Because this is about emotion and instinctiveness and viscerality and things like that, I'm going to go into it unprepared, not out of laziness, but purely because you're more likely to get the real shit from me, and you're also more likely to get the real shit when I've been touring in Newcastle on Tyne the night before and on the drive home, and the clocks have changed. So emotional vulnerability, unpreparedness and craziness should confect into honest answers.
Excellent. So they're all going to come together. So I guess then my biggest question is what does a safe space mean to you? And maybe also, where is your safest of spaces?
I think a safe space for me is more about people. For me, it can be anything for anyone. What I'm learning, the more I go on my journey I'm a biohacker, right? So apart from stand-up, in my spare time, I'm a biohacker. If you don't know what biohacking is, it's like what people do when they pick up a lonely planet and just get on a plane and go somewhere and explore. I do with my body and my mind. I'm constantly on a quest to acquaint myself with this lump of meat I'm walking around in for 80 to 100 years if I'm lucky. And what I realized I started off looking for answers at the beginning, to do with physical health, to do with body, to do with I refuse to age, basically. No Botox, no filler. How can I stop aging mentally and physically? What can be done to slow it down? How can we hack it like we would hack a computer program or hack the housework to find a cleaning hack? And what I'm learning is we're all different. There is no hack. You cannot go up to Debbie and Dan and say, cut out carbs, for example, if you want to lose weight. I'm using a metaphor here for mental health. Cut out carbs if you want to lose weight, because guess what? Some people have a hyper response to carbohydrate, and just eating a slice of white bread is like shoving a cream cake down the neck, and you will never lose weight as long as you eat. Other people, it's a load of old bollocks. Eat rice, eat potatoes. It's faddish keto nonsense. In other words, we're all made different. All our bodies are different. There is no diet for everyone. Do a medium amount of exercise, a moderate amount of the time, and eat a medium amount of stuff, a medium amount of the time. No one wants to fucking hear that because it's too boring and doesn't have a catch-all, fix-it-quick headline. Guess what? It's the same with mental health. It's exactly the same. My safe space is around people I love, when I can express myself without fear of judgment or doubt, or when I'm holding a microphone and I'm in a room of consenting strangers who are saying anything goes, share. That's my safe space. Someone else behind me is 2 walls of books. That's 2 walls. Their safe space is to sit completely on their own for 48 hours. Books, mugs of tea, turmeric latte, bit of a walk with the dog. That's their safe space. Solitude. Some people don't recognize the word loneliness. They only recognize the word solitude. They don't get lonely when they're on their own. They recharge. They're introverts. They're just different to you. Get your head around it. We're all built different. That's what makes life so fucking exciting. And I'm what's called, long-winded answer to your question, an ambivert. I didn't know till I was working in an office and had it tested. I thought, I'm an extrovert. I'm first one up dancing. I want to do stand-up. I'm top off at the pool, regardless of what shape I'm in. I have no problem speaking to girls. I'm clearly an extrovert. But guess what? I can do 3 days sat on that couch behind me without a human being, eyes rolling in the back of my head in heaven at being on my own. I express in company of people, gregariously. I recharge in solitude. We are about 20% of we're 20% of the population. The other 80% are either I need to be with my friends, I need to do a shot and dance and share, particularly men. I need to go to the pub, have a pint with 8 other lads, and then suddenly I'm talking about my mental health. And others just like being on that couch behind me, and loud noises and a door slamming stresses them, and they're introverts. We're all different, but my safe space is made of humans.
But what's crucial about that, everything that you've just said there, is real self-awareness. And I know, for example, that you just did a podcast on this where you were talking about that, and actually the importance of that. Do you think, in your opinion, that many people have that level of self-awareness to be able to understand that what a safe space is for them? Because it is so important, right?
Yeah, I think the number one tool, we're talking about safe spaces here, and I'm coming at it from a cozy, got my life on track, happily married, not worried about money anymore position. But it becomes different when those things vanish, which they could for me at any moment, just like it could for anyone. And when you're in a bad place, and we're talking mental health bad, depressed, or worse, my brother is severely incapacitated mental health wise. We're not talking about, I think I've got ADHD because I read a Google page. My brother can't text, never had a girlfriend, never worked, can't live independently, absolutely on the ground fucked mental health, proper schizophrenic mental health. And the one thing that holds my brother back from recovery is what you just said: insight into his own condition. The more insight you can have into your condition, the easier you will find it to pick up the tools to solve those problems. It's the number one thing. It could be something as mild as drinking too much coffee, or I want to stop smoking. Until you have got that cutting insight into seeing your lungs blackening, the cancer coming, and never meeting your grandchildren, until that moment, you will not stop smoking. Until you can say, these are my triggers, this is why I'm depressed, I'm ready to make change, you will not be ready to heal. That brutal level of insight is almost more important than the safe spaces and the remedies themselves, because it's the first step of an alcoholic, of a depressive, of anything.
Totally agree. But I think with all of this stuff, and again, I think you've hit the nail on the head, and I'm pretty sure that I've heard you talk about this before. I think the most crucial thing, and I wonder maybe then if that's the difference between, well, I'm sure there are many differences, and forgive me if I'm sounding too generalizing here, but I wonder if part of that difference between you and your brother is maybe it's the desire to talk about this stuff, right? And actually, to look into it and actually talk, because in my opinion, talking changes everything.
Yeah, you can. Obviously, my brother's a bad example. He's incredibly unwell. He doesn't have proper
but
cognition.
More generally,
he doesn't have cognition. He's sailed into darkness and cannot be retrieved. Closer to a sort of dementia type ailment. But for those that are on the cusp or suffering in silence, and I know, obviously, I always get in trouble when I say this, and I get complaints from women and go, "What about me? Postnatal depression? Women suffer too." I get that, but I'm sorry, you can't deny the stats. Men are 7 times more likely to kill themselves at the point of recording in 2022. That's just a fact. I'm not doing it to try and trigger women that are suffering from depression. I'm doing it to let you know how much worse men are at talking. There's nothing unique about having balls. What it means, it's just there's something obviously to do, combination of the way we're socialized in the West, combined probably with testosterone, that we are just not as good at sharing. It's
No.
perceived as unmasculine to gossip and share and light a Joe Malone candle and speak with Debbie and have a glass of Prosecco and talk about bastards. Men don't do that. And it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And then we lose men that we don't
I
need to.
agree. I agree. And I think that, so for you, how did you kind of uncover the importance of that? Do you think that that started on stage?
I don't know. I sort of drifted into that area via the sort of hardcore end of it with my brother. That's how I ended up as an ambassador for Rethink. And then I sort of gatewayed sideways into Mind, which is more your area, I would have thought.
Yeah.
And I just looking at the stats, and I'm just convinced. Obviously, I would say that I dish out talking for a living. I sell talking and laughter as a medicine, and discussion, and everything I do is about talking, whether it's on telly or on stage or stuff like we're doing now. So I guess that is my bias. But I do think talking has an edge over medication for more people than we would realize. There is a place for medication.
I wonder then, has the Hoffman process offered similar to you? Has it created that change for you in your life?
I'd never had an antidepressant pill in my life. I'm scared of them. And I've never been to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I've never had anything serious like that happen to me. So I have to put that up front, so that, because in a sense, I'm talking about stuff I know nothing about, because some people have done all these things for years. All I can tell you is, I had one specific problem, which was a temper issue. That's all it was, a temper issue that had started when I was about 13 and just got worse and worse and worse, until in the end, I was a man in his 30s doing like teenage goth girl behavior because I couldn't.
And that was like a self-harming, right? Was that?
Yeah, but it wasn't any. It wasn't. It wasn't the pathology of it. Wasn't your normal self-harming is either something to do with attention or heat, or you've got unresolved issues, or you cut yourself because you're in emotional pain. That's 99.9% of self-harming. In fact, I've never met anyone else who had my type. But I'm sure there must be other. Yeah, where your temper's so bad that you need to punch a window out to get it out. Loads of blokes like that. But I went beyond that to the point where my temper's so bad I would want to like stab a pencil in my arm or just fucking crazy shit. But it was ultimately just a more extreme version of a door slamming pig man. I'd just taken it to the next level, but to the point where it's getting physically. It didn't impact on my life because this would only happen 3, 4, 5 times a year, but it was getting more dangerous. Where I thought I could end up killing myself by accident here.
And it's really interesting, isn't it? Because these things, and I don't know, and I don't know if there's a simile here, but I wonder if it's a case of actually it was a thing that distracted from whatever pain you were in at that moment. It took you out of that into something else, right? Would you say that's true?
It just expressed it and got it out, like letting a scream out all of a sudden. It wasn't anything as deep as that. It was literally, I'm going to lose my temper and smash up the whole house here. I know what I'll do. If I stab my arm quickly, I'll be so busy sorting my bleeding arm out.
Yeah, the distraction, right? Of course.
Right. So anyway, that was I had one specific thing. I thought, there's no way I'm getting married and having children and then running around like Jack Nicholson stabbing myself in the arm. It's fucking mental. Psychologists can't help me because I've not got any result. I'm not in pain. There's nothing to resolve. I'm not depressed. I've just got this bubbling over. I'm obviously an extremely high energy, passionate person in everything I do, and unfortunately,
it's got to come out.
My temper was the same. So I was like, I need some tools here. So I had this incident which was really bad, where I headbutted a plate I was eating off. It's funny, really. I headbutted my Chinese takeaway. Blood was squirting all over the lounge, blood in my eyes, food everywhere. I thought I blinded myself because I was bleeding into my eyes. It really scared me. I was picking special fried rice out my eye and I honestly thought it was bits of skull. It was the scariest thing that had ever happened to me. I had to go no, it is funny. I went to casualty and then had to sit with the special nurse that deals with domestic abuse victims while my partner at the time was interrogated for having smashed the plate around my face. And I thought, this has got to fucking stop. I found it immature and embarrassing, and I was having to cover up all the time. Oh yeah, no, my cat scratched me. Oh, I slipped over, and I'm like, this is getting ridiculous now. I'm in an abusive relationship with myself and covering up for myself. So I googled. Can't remember what Google I got there, and the headline was, "When you're really, really ready to make a change, but your time poor." Basically, that's what the Hoffman is. It's 8 days, and when I went there. This is why I'm saying about people that are on pills or seeing psychologists or doing courses that last months and months. That's all that was there. People that had done the AA program 100 times, people that have been on antidepressants since they were 16, people that had spunked thousands of pounds on psychologists and were just, things worked for a bit, but nothing was worked. People at the end of their tether willing to try something different. And that's what's different about the Hoffman. They take your phone off you. They take everything off. You're not allowed to exercise. You're not allowed to wank. You're not allowed to even talk too much. You just have to focus. Obviously, the wank one's done on trust. You have to do. You have to do. Everything's about. People started to give each other shoulder massages. That was frowned on. It was just focusing on the work. There's a mixture of group therapy, physical activities, and you had to share rooms in a dorm. It's one of the most exhausting, intense, weird. One other thing that had started when I was there, which I didn't realize I didn't do, is I didn't hug people. I hugged the only person I would hug is someone I was shagging, or if I was off my tits on a dance floor, I'd probably hug my best mate Dan. But anywhere else in life, the double cheek kiss and all that, I'm working class. You wave at the door and you fuck off at the end of the night. But I was in showbiz, so I hated all the hugging and kissing shit. But ever since that day, I mean, literally from the moment I checked out of Hoffman 8 days later, and when I say checked out, it was a beautiful hotel with wonderful food. I've hugged and kissed people, and I've never, ever had one single incident of what I went in there for ever again. Not once.
So do you think then, would you, I mean, and again, I don't know what the process is, and obviously I understand it's completely secret.
It's physical. Do you know the difference, Kate? We're talking about safe spaces, yeah? A lot of it's verbal. What we're doing now is verbal. There's only so far you can go with words. This is what I tell my live comedy audiences, the difference between watching me on Zoom, watching me on telly, that we are human beings. I don't care about Zoom and House Party and Twitter and drones and 2024 and all the technology it'll bring. We are apes. We are built on touch, contact, heat, hormones. Certain things you cannot bullshit by sitting back on £100 an hour couch and smashing Xanax down your throat. Sooner or later, you're going to have to get up off your arse and physically work for change you want. And it's the bit we always miss with safe spaces.
I agree. And it's connection, right? What you're talking about is connection. And I think that has been at the heart of obviously how, we've done this big piece of research recently where we were looking at what's changed over the last couple of years and how people are feeling as a consequence of everything that's gone on and obviously everything that's moving forward. And I really believe that we've moved from this culture of we to a culture of me, because people have pulled back into themselves. They've had less connection with each other. And in doing that, that's why we've got this disconnection. That's why we've got this disengagement with each other, because we've just pulled away. And having moved to a place of working in isolation, more fucking fear as well, right? Because I'm up in my head the whole time and I'm boiling up these theories that just ain't fucking true. And don't you find it ironic though that the technology that's built to make us connect more is driving that individualism? Of course, social media, Instagram, connect with friends. It ain't connect. It's make a film of your own life. Put your abs, tits, fanny, dick online. Put your jokes online. Whatever. You're the star of your own show. I really want there's and I think I know the answer to this from just even the conversations that we've just had. Is there anything that you're not comfortable sharing? And no. I suppose I guess that because I think you've said this previously, and I think that this is so important when I think about people getting to their most powerful. And I certainly know that, over the last few months, the work that I've been doing on myself is really kind of getting me to be really coming to the truth of who I am and then what I can put out in my business. I think if you can get really comfortable with your truth and then share it, that's when you're at your most powerful. Do you agree?
I agree. The only stuff would be when I don't have the consent of other people involved to share, which I would happily talk about. And anyone who's been to the dinner with me, and we have a mutual friend, will know I get hushed all the time by my wife. So I'll just start describing the innermost secrets of everything, and I'll get the look. And even to strangers, I'll go on stage and talk about stuff. I don't know why. Sometimes I just enjoy the thrill of sharing. I think sometimes it's not therapeutic and knowing my truth. It's just I get off on people going, "Oh my god, you talk about anything." It's just it might be as shallow as that. But mostly this. Except even my brother. Really, it's only in the last year I've even started talking about him because I thought he's not really well enough to consent. But sometimes I just have to, you know.
I mean, it must be really important for you. And I imagine there's something really like the energy that you exude. I imagine that after you come off stage, that energy is fucking gone, right? That like you must drain. And because of that, your energy levels must be so up and down.
Yeah, thank
right?
God.
Because
but thank God. Because if they stayed up, though, I would be robbed of the one thing that keeps two things keep my business moving forward, commercially, emotionally, and physically: coffee and sleep. They are two. Without those two things, there is no career. There is fucking nothing. So I get there. I like really good coffee, not a ridiculous amount. I don't drink Red Bull. I don't eat any shit. I don't drink any gym supplements. I don't take drugs. I don't smoke. I have one glass of red wine, maybe a glass and a half after the gig. So this coffee, and there's double espresso in there. I might only drink half while I'm on to you, but knowing it's there, sipping at it.
Really?
Boom.
Would you say that's part of your self-care?
Definitely. Coffee is life, and people that want to say negative shit against me, until you show me the evidence, I'm not hearing about it.
I can see how much you take care of your physical and emotional well-being. Is there anything else that you do from an element of self-care? Because I think, you know, doing something that engages you so much, that you can express so much and get everything out of you, must be brilliant. Is there anything else that you put in to look after yourself?
So when people are looking for things to put in to make their safe spaces better and to take care of themselves, they make one mistake over and over again. Okay. So if you take anything away from this, people, take this away. Don't put anything into your life that you can't lazily achieve without leaving the house. If you do, you increase the risk that you won't stick to it one day, then you don't stick to it the next day, then you don't. And before you know it, oh, it's raining, oh, the car park at the gym, oh, I can't be arsed. It's all very well joining Virgin Active round the corner. That's a 10-minute drive. That's a stress in the car park. That's a shower. That, if you're like me, I don't want to talk to any CUNT at the gym. I don't even want to be looked at while I'm exercising. I like to exercise in total silence, not with music and funky house music, with a dry podcast about books in my ear. So the thing is, if you really are struggling to stay regular with those things, make sure you do versions easily achieved. And my versions are this. Exercise, any workout, I do exercise every day if I can. I'll give myself a rest day once a week if I'm busy, but I don't enjoy my rest day. I hate it. I don't want to do a rest day. That is my morning, you could say therapy if you want to be American about it, or just routine if you want to be British about it. Physical movement on my own, something really interesting on iPlayer or on podcast in my ears, listening to something like we're talking about, moving, physically hitting, jumping, whatever it is, jumping on the side. I can do a whole workout there with no equipment behind me, jumping on the spot, push-ups, fucking doing pull-ups off that bookshelf there, whatever it is, 20, 30, 50 minutes. That's the first thing. Bullshit-proof exercise that you can do in a 6x6 single room. Oh, I couldn't get to the gym. Fuck you. Do a squat workout next to a single bed. Design bullshit-proof strategies. Second one, these fucking things have saved my life. Where are we? Here. Books. Yeah. You're looking at a quid out of a bargain bucket. Join the light. No fucker can stop you reading. It's every budget. Even someone who's fighting the streets and hostels can get a 20p paperback or can get free books from a book donation bin. You can go anywhere with a book. Get into reading. Films. It's just simple shit. Just watch a film on ITV or BBC. I put it on sci-fi. Steroided fucks, machine gunning aliens that take me into the most simplest, most escapist stuff. And fourthly, food.
Yeah, and I think you've really nailed what works for you. I think, and listen, I have loved this morning, and like I'm starting to understand how much you understand yourself and how and that's so paramount to you. So my last question for you, you know, I've really started to understand how you look after yourself. You've obviously been a safe space for people on your podcast. How does that feel? But then the second part to it is, you know, I can tell what a good person you are. I can tell how the set level of self-awareness that you have. Have you been a safe space for someone else in a deeper way, in a more intimate way? And how does that feel? So let's talk about the podcast first of all. How does it feel when people start sharing with you?
Right. So Man Baggage, which is the podcast you're talking about, was set up originally. It was, what if it was like Loose Men, basically, and that morphed into, men. We should create a podcast where men are sharing and men are talking about their mental health. Then I realised there were a few like that already,
Yeah.
and it was a thing people were saying. And so I asked the question, why does that still not work for so many men? Hearing middle class people in cardigans and biscuits sharing their feelings, why does it not bring so many men with them? And the answer is, for a lot of working class men, maybe as high as 70 to 80%, it makes you cringe, and it actually turns you off hearing white middle class women tell men to share their feelings. I realized there was a gap for working class men of all colors and religions to use humor and banter as a gateway in. I know banter is a word that's been ruined by wankers, but what I mean is, it might be hard for some people to understand, but when a man's wife has left him, for example, sometimes what he needs first is a bit of ribbing and mockery, then a pint, then a chat. I know it's hard.
It's the gateway, right? It's the gateway.
It can be. It's the lube to a penetration of a man's mind is humor. And I know women use humor all the time. I know a lot of funny females. But what I mean is, if on the girls group, if one girl said, I'm feeling really down after Darren left me, she's probably not going to get a barrage of cock pictures and jokes first. She's probably going to get side grouped. She's probably going to get checked in. She's probably going to get a giant bottle of Prosecco and a Yankee Candle that night, and they're all going to sit around with popcorn watching Bridget Jones.
Heady days.
The guys, first of all, probably going to get Arnold Schwarzenegger's biceps scent, implying that's how much he's going to be masturbating. He's going to get a bit of humor, and you're more likely to trick a Neanderthal out of a cave into the light with that. I'm not saying to do it automatically, because you could get this wrong and make things worse. But I just realized there was a gap for a humorous way in to heavy shit. So I get a real glow from thinking I've invited blokes in to talk, and
probably
about
had an impact by the stuff that you, the content you create, so. Right?
Not on the guests. A lot of my guests are quite sort of, they're on there to plug things. They're media trained and they're happy to talk about edgy things because it looks good. But then I get DMs on the side and show them to Lindsay, and I think, my God, it actually does work. A bloke that's suffering from depression doesn't want to talk about depression. He wants to talk about football and feel less depressed. You're gonna have to get your head around this, and then eventually depression gets talked about. So there's that, and the second part. Do you want me to go straight on, or do you want?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, in our life, I can't talk too much again because there's minors involved and people who probably wouldn't want their shit discussed. But I have, I like to think I'm changing someone's life at the moment, a family member who was lost to us and is now back in the fold, and I'm sort of intimately involved in doing that, and it's completely selfless because for reasons I can't really go into, I'm not getting the juicy feedback and thanks I would like to get firsthand.
The validation, right?
Pure altruism. Yes, there's a few huggy, cryy circle chat moments, but I'm really getting a buzz out of getting involved in this young person's life and really, really changing it. I'm so excited to know how that will spin out as this person turns into an adult. So that's fantastic. And again, with a friend of mine who about 5 years ago, so this is a different person, an adult male, one of the boys, had a breakup. We did all the wanking jokes, but then we realized, shit, this is serious, man. Are we going to wake up to a sorry, your friend's topped himself type thing? It really got there. So I took that friend on the road with me for a couple of international tour days, and we walked around, Amsterdam, laughing at the prostitutes and just getting stoned and doing guy things. Not stone, you know what I mean? Just having a hash cake here and there. And it just made the difference. I don't think we really got into it while we were out. Maybe we had one conversation, but So yeah,
well, that's how you get the connection, isn't it?
That's putting all the theory we're talking about into practice.
Yeah, no, I get it. Listen, I just want to say thank you. I'm not going to take any more of your time, but I just want to say thank you. That was such a brilliant 30 minutes. It really was. Great. And I think that, my summary from that was 3 big things around self-awareness, the importance of that, the importance of connection, genuine connection, physical connection as much as anything else. And then, that whole thing around safe space, and actually not only what you can put into it, but what you get out of it when you take care of others as well. So Russell, thank you. That was so insightful. And thank you for your openness and vulnerability.
Stimulating chat.